So we found ourselves here at the Zotac booth where they're showing off kind of a couple of the new 1080 GPUs, a couple of different sort of air-cool sort of options, and a really interesting water block version as well, which is a good thing to kind of to move towards, essentially trying to get that sort of extra overclocking ability out of the card itself. VR is of course a big push here as well, so they've got their own little mini VR ready system, which has also been incorporated into the form of a backpack, which looks really cool, again sort of providing that wireless solution for VR and a truly immersive experience. So let's go and have a look and see what's in store in the Zotac booth. Okay, so we've come across the new 1080 cards that Zotac have released for this year. A couple of different versions, as you've seen before in their 980 Ti. Essentially, we have the Amp Edition and the Amp Extreme, which is going to be their sort of 3-slot cooler design, 3 fans as well, with sort of like a dual-bladed sort of fan design, so essentially better airflow through the cooler itself. Both are going to have the similar sort of lighting effect, which is going to give sort of RGB color illumination to the cards, and we're expecting good things from these. If anything, to go by the 980 Ti that we saw before, with the 3-slot cooler, was providing very, very serious kind of overclocking potential, so a really good card to look out for in the future. What's quite interesting as well with the 1080s that they've got here is they've managed to implement as well a water block. This can be bought, we're told, with the card itself, essentially with the same sort of RGB lighting system that's implemented in the card to provide better overclocking potential on the GPU. Or there might be the option for just buying the block itself separately. So if you find yourself buying just the air-cooled version, you do have the potential of upgrading to a water-cooled equivalent as time goes on, as you might increase on the system itself. So really good-looking cards, fantastic-looking cooling solutions. And as I say, if anything from the 980 Ti we've seen before is to go by, then these are going to be some really heavy hitters with a lot of performance to be gained. And speaking of VR, as we mentioned before, Zotac's kind of coming to the plate with essentially their own mini sort of VR-ready system. This guy's actually looking really cool. The idea is a bit more to bring it to the living room, so it's a bit more of an HDPC kind of thing, but with the performance to allow you to get it set up essentially for VR. So inside here we have a 6400 Intel i5, and they're running sort of like the GTX 980 essentially. So easily enough performance to run any game in VR as it stands. What's really nice with this one though is not only is it going to be kind of consumer upgradable, you will be able to actually remove the bottom panel of the case to allow you access to the SODIMM memory to upgrade the RAM, and also to SSDs. So you will be able to put in your own 2.5-inch drive to increase on the capacity, a bit more sort of a game library essentially. Another really cool feature is the fact that it's water cooled to keep the temperatures down and allow it to sort of essentially not thermal throttle in this smaller form factor. So the 120mm fan and radiator setup that we've got here is actually cooling both the GPU and the CPU together, which is really impressive to see. You've got all the usual connections required for VR connection on the back, so sort of HDMI and DisplayPort connectors as well, easily enough USB to go by. We've been told that this is going to be available in Q3, and alongside that, the RRP is going to be around about $18.99 or thereabouts, and that does include a full version of Windows, so you will be able to absorb all your sort of media content as well, movies and online kind of content, as well as the VR sort of the content itself as well. So here we can see the mini VR system essentially sort of implemented in the backpack. We've seen a couple of these floating around. I hate to say maybe not quite as polished as the MSI equivalent, but maybe a bit of a work in progress. This essentially is going to be running on battery pack, so you will be able to have that same virtual reality experience, but without the sort of issue of kind of cabling sort of dragging around behind you or tripping over it. Looks really good. Looks like quite a compact and easy solution for virtual reality. As I say, quite nice to see it going mobile. It'd be quite cool to have an option of setting it up in a much larger space and making use of like a full warehouse to truly give you the option of walking around and experiencing virtual reality, kind of the way I'd imagine it's intended to be. It's okay? Hello. So we've just been allowed to have a go on Zotac's kind of like mini sort of rucksack VR system. It was really good fun. The main problem that I encountered was that you can constantly feel the cable on the back of your head. You're very much expecting it to be like a tethered kind of situation, like you would expect with most typical kind of VR. So you very much find yourself not wanting to move around too much, not to get kind of tangled up in the cable itself. When you realize, of course, that you can kind of move freely, it becomes really good fun. You can turn without kind of worrying about tripping over the cables. Turns into a lot more of an enjoyable experience. I can certainly see this being something that people will be interested in the future, so bravo Zotac.